So hopefully from, okay, if we can just come back into our original teams, please. Just taking our seats. Thank you. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of time to move back to your seats. Okay, so hopefully from that was, hopefully you think that was a relatively useful task. And again, like I said at the start, this is more about trying to draw, or this part of the workshop was more about trying to draw on some of the experiences that we all have and we can all then share with each other. So hopefully through reading about the different learning styles, then teaching through the activity that you had and learning from other people, that we managed to learn something new here today and understand something new from these. Guys, can I please ask to keep it a little bit quieter? Guys? Okay, thanks. Okay, so what I want to do next, I want to ask you a question here. So now we know that students learn differently, right? We know that we learn differently. We know that there's these different learning styles. But what I want to ask you is, what challenges do you as instructors face teaching university students? Now, this is a question that colleagues and myself have asked in the United States, and we've asked it in the UK as well. So we're wanting to try and create a cross-cultural comparison, if there is any, that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand out some post-it notes here, and all I want you to do is just jot down whatever challenge you face at university. So just jotting it down on the post-it notes. I'll pass that around. Just take one, jot down a challenge that you face. You take one there, pass it around. You take a post-it note, pass it around, please. Thanks. It can be 1, 2, whatever. Got it. Go. Thank you. Oh, you've got it.
That's okay, thank you.
And once you're done, if you just hold it up for me and I'll start collecting some of those in. Thanks a lot. Once you're done, just hold the ticket up and we'll collect it in.
You want just to write
Anything.
one challenge?
One challenge. It can be one challenge, 2 challenges, 3, as many as you want. Okay, thank you. Okay, just when you're finished, hold it up for me and I'll collect it in. Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, so as I'm collecting these in, I'm just going to start reading out just some of the comments here. So some of them we have language barriers, we have poor attitudes, we have motivation of students, student engagement, we have lack of attitudes, lack of commitment, the need for student commitment. We got any others? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So we also have focused on grades. We also have passive learning. We have poor time management, poor motivation, interaction not good in class. Thanks a lot. Challenge of trying to make make the subject interesting. Language barriers, thank you. Increase in curiosity, motivate students. Language barriers again, thanks a lot. Students can't understand goals of the class. Motivations again. Knowledge and background. Okay, so I'll continue to collect them in as we go, but you can see that there's real overlap here, right? We all have relatively the same challenges, so a lot of it is to do with motivation of student. We see language barriers there. A lot of it's to do with interaction in class, student engagement in class. These are a lot of the common themes that we tend to see, and this is absolutely no different to what we gathered when we were in the States, and absolutely no different to what we gathered when we were in the UK as well. But this is quite interesting, right? Because this then becomes a worldwide problem at university, trying to engage, trying to motivate, trying to get students interested in what it is that we're teaching them, get them interested coming to class. So thinking about some of the activities that we did earlier on when we're talking about successful learning, encouraging students to think of coming to university to learn rather than coming to university simply to pass a particular subject or just simply to pass an exam can help to try and motivate them a bit more to actually do something in the class. Then if we think about the activities that we just did here, right, the different types of teaching styles, the different types of learning, then we might be able to get students talking to each other a little bit more. We might be encouraging them to actually do some work in the class. Yeah, absolutely. So we can use different types of experiences as well there. But what we tend to do, right, what we tend to do is we have a lecture and we lecture at our students. Now, just of a show of hands, just out of sheer interest, how many of you go to a lecture and you lecture for about an hour to the students? Yeah, how many do that? Yeah, so how many go to you have your lecture and you lecture at your students? Yeah? So you have like this, lecturer stands here, lectures to students. Yeah? Is that what you do in class? Yeah? That's okay. So basically what I'm saying is that we often set up our classes in the format of lectures, right? So we tend to share information from the instructor to students for about an hour. Sometimes it's for 2 hours, yeah? But what we find is that in the past 20 years, there's been more pedagogic change than what there's been in the past 2,000 years, right? And this is based on some of the stuff that we've been discussing this morning, some of the different learning styles being brought from psychology into higher education. Now, you might think some of this isn't new, but actually it's relatively new. We've only been really talking about this for the past 20 years. But what we also find as well, actually, is that we generally don't change the way that we teach. We generally teach as we go to a lecture, students come into the lecture hall, we lecture at them for an hour, off they go, right? We provide them with a reading after the lecture. So it's very much the behaviourist learning style that we focus on, and we all tend to do it. And Donald Clark here with this link, this YouTube link, he talks about this a lot, that this is the approach that we use in teaching, it's the approach that we use in learning. And he talks about some of the things that you guys have been working on this morning in terms of trying to maybe rethink and reframe how it is that we set up our classrooms and how it is that we teach. Now, I absolutely appreciate that sometimes we just have to have a lecture because we have so many students in our class, right? This happens for me at the undergraduate level, where I have 400 students, yeah? So at 400 students, I can't do this type of thing. But when I have this amount of students, I can, right? And I can do that with my master's classes. So I appreciate that it depends on our numbers. But if we think about how we are teaching and we go back to Greek philosophers like this, then we still have the same style, we still have the same setup in a classroom, in a lecture, where we have this format here, yeah? We have the pedestal, and we tend to stand behind it, and we tend to just lecture at our students. But what's quite interesting is that the psychologist Ebbinghaus tells us that when we teach in that particular way, when we teach with just talking to our students, we forget things really, really quickly, yeah? So he suggests to us that after 20 minutes of learning, we only retain 58% of what we've learned, right? Let's go forward to one day. So tomorrow, if I set up this session as just a lecture and I spoke to you guys for 4 hours, you would retain maybe about 33% of what we spoke about today. Go 31 days, let's just forget about it, right? Because we've now forgotten 79% of what we have spoken about. But again, I go back to the fact that this is generally how we teach at university, right? This is normally what we do. In the UK, this is generally what it looks like, and what it looks like in the US, it might be the same here. We have the students banked up and they're relatively disengaged. They tend to sit there for the first 15 minutes. They become very bored. They then start shuffling around in their seats. Very quickly, they pull out the mobile phone and they're then looking on the phone, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, whatever else it is that they use, right? And the questions they tend to ask me in class, and this is what they're asking in the States as well from our little research that we did, was how many points is this test going to be worth, or how many points is this paper going to be worth? How long does the paper need to be? What do I need to know for the exam? And these types of questions don't really relate to actually wanting to learn something, right? It morely relates to, I just simply want to pass. I want to pass the test. I want to do the bare minimum. And it goes back to that element of when I speak to them about successful learning, what is it? And they tend to tell me it's about discussion. It's about me being able to go away and put something into practice. But this doesn't reflect practice, right? This just reflects passing an exam. It reflects that bare minimum style. But these people can actually interact with each other. It's amazing. This same set of people here that were sitting there exceptionally bored in a lecture can actually enjoy themselves. Yeah, they can actually interact, they can actually talk. So some of the stuff that we did today, then it can be useful to try and get them to that point. And I'm also going to highlight some technology that might be able to help us in terms of stopping them from losing interest in class. Yeah, and stopping them from simply going to the phone to look at social media or whatever else they do. And our research shows that students tend to lose interest after about 15 minutes. They can't concentrate any longer than 20 minutes. So that's where, even if we have got a lecture format and we have got big classes, it is very important that we break things down, right? Break things down into chunks of 20 minutes, which is probably what you do. So introducing activities every 20 minutes. If we've got a lecture that's maybe an hour, then we've got a couple of activities in there, which I'm sure you already do. They also say that they buy textbooks that they rarely open. They also say that they often don't find classes relevant. And they also say that students generally complete 49% of readings assigned to them after class. So it means that 51% of the readings they're not even bothering about. They also say that they only find 26% of the readings relevant, and they bring their laptop to class, but they're not actually working on class stuff, right? They're actually, again, on social media, or they're on websites, they're buying stuff, and so on. But there are some things that we can do, right? We can utilize some of this stuff. We can take some of this technology, and we can go where they are, because they are on social places like Facebook and so on. So within one of my classes, and I appreciate this might not work for everybody, and I appreciate cultural differences might stop it from happening, but what I do with one of my digital classes is we have a Facebook group, and within that Facebook group, we encourage the students to post relevant things related to the class, so class examples. And what that does is it highlights examples to us that we know then the students are interested in, right? And we bring those examples into the classroom. And then we can call out the name of the person who posted it, so that we can maybe get some interaction with them. Why did they post it? What were they talking about? And we reply online as well. We reply within the Facebook groups too. So it starts to get students a little bit more interested and a little bit more engaged. But again, I appreciate, depending on subject areas, it might not work. It works very well for me in marketing. For mathematics, I'm not so sure if that would work, right? But we also have search engines, yeah? So we can assign students to do work before coming to class, and then we can flip the class around and get them actually working on some of the material that they've done before class, and then maybe presenting back to us. Yeah, so it's taking the onus off of us, always providing the information, but getting them to actually work and do something together in the class. Again, this is probably not alien to you. And Wikipedia. I genuinely think Wikipedia is fantastic, right? And coming from an academic, it's probably quite unusual to hear that, because we have a love-hate relationship with Wikipedia, a very strange relationship with it. Because what we tend to do is tell our students, do not use Wikipedia, do not reference Wikipedia, and do not use Wikipedia to learn. But let's be honest, right? All of us use Wikipedia, yeah? We all use it. If we're wanting to learn some sort of new concept, we go to Wikipedia and we find out about it. Okay, so that's given me an idea. Then we start going into other areas to learn, right? Why not flip it? Why not tell the students, go off, okay, learn, use Wikipedia, understand the concept, come to class, and they're able to discuss it, yeah? There's no reason why they can't use it as a basic, and then you can introduce the actual academic and theoretical parts of it, right? So we can actually use it to our favour rather than us having to go and learn from Wikipedia. We can get the students to use it.
Don't think this social media has a negative effect on the knowledge of the student.
As a negative effect on?
I mean, social media has a negative effect on the knowledge of the student, and even the new generation, especially because spend most of the time in the channel, something they not say something those days, better than going not to directly use the media or use the internet for the benefit. Even they are not care about study, about exam, about just
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. What was said there, just so you can all hear, is that the question was, doesn't social media have a negative effect on learning, right? That was kind of the question. Well, I suppose it could, because it might be a distraction in terms of people go to social media for social activities.
not a source of learning or tools of learning. It is tools of communicating, social communicating.
Yeah.
We can't use it as a tools of learning or social.
Yeah, well, yes, you can and you can't, because with this here, it allows our students, social media allows our students to connect with each other, it allows our students to organise things with each other, allows us as instructors to share, it allows them to collect information, allows them to collaborate and publish things, right? I totally appreciate your point on that it can be a distractive thing and maybe not the tool to help us learn, but the tool to help us facilitate, right? It can be a tool that can help us to facilitate learning and collaborating together. Yeah?
But it will be too much for the instructor. For example,
Absolutely, it can be, and what we're saying here is that it can be a lot of work for an instructor to use some of these things, and absolutely, I don't hide from that. But what it can do is it can make your job easier in other senses. So for instance, when I use that Facebook group for the digital class, and they're providing me with examples, I don't have to go find the examples. They just provided me with the examples, right? So they're doing part of the job for me as well, and also they're interacting, and also they're starting to get engaged in the subject. Now, if we're genuine about trying to get students interested and trying to motivate them a little bit more, then yeah, I appreciate that it can be a little bit more work at times, but it's trying to change things around a little bit, yeah? Because this is the way that we overcome some of the challenges that are set up there on the board to some extent. So what, for me, which is really important, is trying to move our students from knowledgeable to this element of knowledge able. Yeah, so it's giving them the ability to be able to put things into practice. Yeah, so not simply just picking up a textbook, rehearsing the textbook, memorizing the textbook, coming along, doing a multiple choice test, and simply ticking all the right answers, yeah? Because that's quite often how we test. One way that I've tried to move away from that with one of the classes is to provide a semester-long assignment. And again, works for me in the area that I work in, yeah? So I get students to create a website. I then get them to drive traffic to that website. I then get them to try and encourage retention on that website, people coming back to it again and again. And I then try and get them to convert customers on that website where they're possibly signing up to a newsletter. So that shows me that from the lectures, from the reading, they have the practical skills when they've actually gone away and done it. I could, on the flip side, give them a report to write, give them an essay to write, and tell me, how do you create a website, how do you drive traffic? What they'll do is go to the textbook, copy the bit from the textbook that says how to build a website, paraphrase it, and give it to me as the hand-in, right? What happens there is, yeah, okay, they become knowledgeable, but they're not actually knowledge-able, right? Because it's unlikely they're going to be able to move away and do that in practice.